Making movies is hard. Like, really hard. It's right up there with being a lawyer, McDonald's worker, or a call center agent. But sometimes, making a movie isn't just hard, it's war.
Oh, good for you!
That kind of war. These movies shouldn't exist. They were filmed in war zones, they burned through money, sanity, and mosquito repellent. Directors had breakdowns, actors walked off set, and one of them literally dragged a boat over a mountain because... authenticity, I guess?
Fornication.
And somehow, these cinematic disasters became legends. This isn't a story about movie magic. This is a story about movie madness. I'm Nerdyboijay, as always, and if you love deep dives into film history, chaotic productions, and the weird corners of cinema, I don't know why I keep using my hand, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, ding the notification bell. And also, YouTube have started implementing something called a hype button, so if you've got some to spare, please send me some.
Begging.
So we can get more of my videos out there in the algorithm. With that out of the way, let's begin. If we're talking problematic productions, there's no better place to start than Apocalypse Now, because this one didn't just flirt with disaster. It married it, moved to the jungle, and refused to come home. This wasn't just a movie shoot. It was a slow-motion nervous breakdown captured on film. Francis Ford Coppola went into the Philippines at the height of his power. He'd just made The Godfather Part 2, won some Oscars, and decided to follow it up by creating Vietnam. Not a Vietnam movie. The Vietnam movie. The problem was, the script wasn't finished, the weather was unpredictable, and every few weeks a typhoon would sweep through and erase entire sets, like the jungle itself was trying to stop him. Martin Sheen had a heart attack mid-shoot. Marlon Brando showed up overweight, bald, and refusing to learn his lines, and Dennis Hopper was allegedly high enough to orbit Saturn, and through it all, Coppola was losing his mind trying to hold it together, rewriting scenes daily, burning through millions, and convincing himself this chaos was the art. There's this moment at the beginning of Hearts of Darkness where Coppola is having a press conference and he pretty much just says,
We were in the jungle.
On était au jungle.
There were too many of us.
On était de trop dans l'équipe.
We had access to too much money,
On avait accès à trop d'argent,
too much equipment,
trop d'équipement,
and little by little we went insane.
et peu à peu, on est devenu fou.
That line isn't just a quote, it's a thesis statement for every cursed film ever made. But here's the thing. Out of all that madness, the sweat and stress and just about near-death insanity, somehow Apocalypse Now became a masterpiece, a fever dream of war, ego, and obsession that feels like it shouldn't exist. Because Apocalypse Now just isn't about Vietnam. It's about what happens when a filmmaker goes so far into his own vision that he starts to actually live it. And as insane as Coppola's production was, he wasn't the only one who stared into the abyss. If Apocalypse Now was cinematic madness born from ambition, then The Island of Dr Moreau was madness born from sheer, uncut absurdity. A movie so chaotic that it didn't just lose control, it never had control to begin with. Imagine trying to make a serious adaptation of a H.G. Wells novel about a mad scientist who turns people into animals and ending up with Marlon Brando wearing a tiny hat and being worshipped by mini clones of himself. Yeah, that's The Island of Dr Moreau. The film started as a dream project for director Richard Stanley, the same guy who made Hardware, a cult sci-fi horror film. He was obsessed with Wells's novel, had concept art, storyboards, and even convinced New Line Cinema to fund it. But then, Hollywood happened. The studio got nervous about Stanley's weird creative choices, so just 3 days into shooting, they fired him. And here's where it gets beautifully unhinged. Instead of going home, Stanley disappeared into the Australian rainforest. Like, literally vanished. The production moved on without him, with veteran director John Frankenheimer brought in to fix things, but it was already too late. The cast hated each other, the script was constantly changing, and Brando was deep in his eccentric deity phase. Brando refused to memorize lines. He even demanded rewrites on the spot, and my head's hurting on this one. He demanded that his character wears an ice bucket on his head to cool his brain, quote unquote. And instead of the studio laughing it off, they're just like, yeah, sure, why not? Val Kilmer wasn't helping either. He was feuding with Frankenheimer, refusing direction, and reportedly tormenting crew members for fun. And then there's the Kilmer/Brando beef. Oh my gosh, they were refusing to come out trailers and basically doing tit for tat on stuff. Frankenheimer once said, "If I ever see Val Kilmer again, I'm gonna kill him." Which, to be fair, might have been the most relatable quote in Hollywood history. Meanwhile, deep in the jungle, Richard Stanley was still there, hiding, watching, waiting. And here is the best part. So they needed extras to play some of the animals, and guess who decides to show up? Yeah, Stanley in full disguise and covered in prosthetics snuck back onto the set of his own movie. You can't make it up. He literally became part of the chaos that he created. By the time the Island of Dr Moreau was finished, it had burned through millions. 2 directors, multiple rewrites, and everyone's patience. Apparently, when Stanley was discovered, Val went up and hugged him as an "I'm sorry for being a douche." The final product was a fever dream, part sci-fi, part horror, part accidental comedy sketch. It bombed, of course. Critics hated it, audiences avoided it, and Brando probably forgot that it even existed in the first place. But over time, it's become this weird cult object, a symbol of how the line between genius and disaster can really be blurred in Hollywood. And if you thought that was wild, just wait until we talk about a film so expensive, so disastrous, that it nearly ended an entire studio. If the Island of Dr Moreau was chaos in the jungle, then Heaven's Gate was chaos on a grand cinematic scale. The kind that can only happen when a director is given too much freedom, too much money, and absolutely no one willing to say no. This was the movie that didn't just crash and burn, it took the studio down with it. And all because Michael Cimino wanted to make some art. Cimino had just come off The Deer Hunter, a massive critical and commercial success. He had Oscars, he was Hollywood's golden boy. So when he said, "Hey, I want to make an epic western about class warfare in 1890s Wyoming," United Artists basically handed him a blank check and said, "Go for it, king." But what started as a $12 million project quickly spiraled into a monster. Cimino demanded everything be perfect. He rebuilt entire towns from scratch, had the grass repainted because it wasn't the right shade of green, and reshot entire scenes just to capture better clouds. You know it's bad when your obsession with the sky becomes part of the budget. By the time shooting wrapped, Heaven's Gate had ballooned past $40 million, a staggering number for 1980. And the studio was bleeding money. The first cut of the film? Over 5 hours long. Critics called it self-indulgent, pretentious, a disaster. It was booed at its premiere and became shorthand for Hollywood's excess. United Artists, once the home of Kubrick and Bond, collapsed under the financial strain. It's kind of poetic, really. Cimino set out to make a film about America's broken dream, and in the process, he broke the American studio system. Now here's the twist. Over time, Heaven's Gate has been re-evaluated. Restored versions revealed a stunning, melancholic epic. Critics like Roger Ebert reversed their opinions, and now it's considered one of cinema's great misunderstood masterpieces. Michael Cimino might have nuked a studio out of orbit, but he also proved that sometimes the line between failure and genius is just a matter of timing. And speaking of timing, our next film's chaos was pretty much on the clock. Because when it comes to pure petrol-soaked insanity, no one does it quite like If Heaven's Gate was Hollywood's hubris, then Mad Max was pure, unfiltered chaos in the desert. George Miller and his team had just one goal: make a low-budget dystopian action film and make it look out of this world. Simple, right?
Wrong!
They shot in the Australian outback during summer. Temperatures soared, engines overheated, and actors and crew were basically frying alive. Mel Gibson was basically a desert zombie. He got burned, dehydrated, and almost broke his neck doing stunts. This other thing was just before Jackie Chan. And the stunts weren't choreographed like they are today. No. They were basically, oh yeah dude, drive fast and make sure that you don't crash. Action! Which, for context, is exactly how you make a cinematic legend. Explosions went off near actors, cars rolled over unexpectedly, there were countless injuries, one stuntman actually passed away, and yet somehow Miller kept filming, because chaos wasn't a problem. It was fuel. Honestly, the production notes could have been a survival guide. 1. Make sure to wear goggles. 2. Don't drink the sand. 3. Let's just hope that the car doesn't explode on top of you. Despite all the madness, or maybe because of it, the film became a worldwide hit. Low budget, barely controlled, and yet completely unforgettable. It's gritty, raw, and still feels like it was filmed on the edge of reality itself. And here's the thing, Miller didn't just make a movie. He made a blueprint for every action director that came after him. Danger, chaos, and absolute madness, all captured on camera. And if you thought that was wild, wait until we talk about the man who literally dragged a boat up a mountain to make a film. It wasn't that steep, it was more like that, but... Werner Herzog! If Mad Max was chaos fueled by adrenaline, then Fitzcarraldo was chaos fueled by obsession. The kind of madness that makes you wonder if a filmmaker is sane or just permanently living in a fever dream. That's just Werner Herzog in a nutshell, I'm just not gonna lie on that one. Werner Herzog wanted to make a film about a man so obsessed with opera that he would drag a steamship over a mountain just so he could build an opera house in the middle of a jungle. The 80s was weird, man. Really weird. This wasn't a model, a matte painting, or a clever trick. Herzog insisted it be authentic, because authenticity apparently is worth every broken back, terrified crew member, and sleepless night. But it wasn't always meant to be this way. Originally, the film was supposed to star Jason Robards and Mick Jagger. Yeah, that Mick Jagger.
We want the operating kingdom!
But Robards fell ill with dysentery and had to leave the production. And Jagger, well, he had to go back on tour with the Stones. So naturally, Herzog replaced them with his best fiend, Klaus Kinski. And that's when things went from ambitious to someone please call an exorcist. Kinski was, well, Klaus Kinski.
Schrei ich mal einen Film hier! Und jetzt Film mal, schrei ich oder schrei ich nicht? Und du sagst es mir nicht, aber ich schrei aber nicht! Leg mich doch am Arsch weg! Der Moment ist überhaupt gekommen, wo ich dir in die Fresse haue!
He screamed, threw tantrums, and terrorized pretty much everyone on set. You might think the crew or the locals would be terrified of him. The Peruvian natives helping on the production, they weren't afraid of Kinski at all. They were terrified of Herzog. Apparently, Herzog's calm, patient, obsessive demeanour made them think this man could make the world do anything, including drag a steamship over a mountain. Meanwhile, Kinski is screaming, throwing fits, and Herzog is calm, composed, and doing what any sane person would do. An absolute specimen of a man. And then there's the Toblerone story.
Kinski arrives, screaming, already foam at his mouth, and he would yell about his lukewarm coffee. And I outperformed him. You know what? I went to my hut because I had one last piece of Toblerone, this triangular Swiss chocolate, which was of the highest value in the jungle. I mean, I had kept it for weeks and weeks, and I came back with this piece of chocolate, and I peeled off the foil of it and ate it right. I stepped that close into his face and ate the piece of chocolate, and that was too much for him. He just fell silent.
I suppose you could say that he was Tobleroned. The jungle itself was an enemy. Rain, mud, heat, rivers full of piranhas, every day a test of human endurance. Yet Herzog never compromised his vision. The boat got dragged, the opera scene was filmed, and the madness became immortalised on film. Fitzcarraldo proved one thing. Cinema isn't just storytelling. Sometimes it's watching a grown man drag a steamboat uphill, confront chaos, survive tantrums, and eat the last piece of Toblerone in front of a raging actor.
Toblerone.
And if you thought that was the ultimate production nightmare, congratulations! You've just finished the tour of problematic productions. They were ambitious. They were obsessive. They pushed the budgets, sanity, and sometimes human safety to the absolute limit. And yet, somehow, out of all that chaos, masterpieces emerged. Films that are loved, studied, and marvelled at to this very day. So next time you watch a movie, just remember, behind the magic, there is always some kind of madness. And sometimes that madness is what makes it so unforgettable. If you have any other nightmarish film productions that I haven't spoken about, leave them down in the comments below. I do like reading whatever you guys have had. And honestly, just before we finish, I've just got to say something.
Toblerone.
When I started this channel, I didn't expect it to be the way that it is now. I'm just so grateful for everyone that has liked, subscribed, left a comment, and helped grow the channel. In such a small amount of time, I've made it past my 1,000 subscribers. And I know it's not a big to a lot of people, but to me, having over 1,000 of you watching my content, it means a lot. So thank you very much for watching me. I will continue to keep making the best content that I can. And yeah, just thank you so much.